There are moments in human history when a single discovery tears through the fabric of what we believe to be real. One such moment happened in 1801, a quiet experiment that would forever alter the way we understand reality itself. Its implications were so profound, so unsettling that even today, surrounded by technology born from that very revelation, humanity still refuses to face its true meaning. What if everything we know about existence, about you, about me, about God, was hidden in that single beam of light? This is the story of the double-slit experiment, the birth of quantum mechanics, and the door it opened to a far greater mystery: the role of consciousness in creating reality. What began as a simple test of light became a window into the very code of existence, revealing that the universe might not be something happening to us, but something happening through us. Thomas Young, a man of insatiable curiosity, stood at the heart of this revolution. Born in England in 1773, he was known as the last man who knew everything. A physician, linguist, physicist, and even an Egyptologist, Young saw knowledge not as separate fields, but as different expressions of one universal truth. Among his many achievements, one stands out: the moment he decided to challenge the greatest scientific question of his time. What is light? Was it made of tiny particles, as Sir Isaac Newton believed? Or was it a wave, as other thinkers like Huygens proposed? To find the answer, Young devised an experiment that seemed almost too simple to matter, yet it would unravel everything. He began with a light source. At first, just a candle. Electricity was still a dream of the future. That small flame, flickering in the stillness of his lab, was directed through a tiny hole to form a narrow, controlled beam. He then placed a thin barrier in its path, a card with two microscopic slits side by side, and behind it, a white screen to catch whatever light passed through. If light were made of particles, Young expected two bright stripes to appear on the screen directly behind the slits. Simple, predictable, like bullets fired through two windows. But what he saw instead was something extraordinary. The screen displayed not two lines, but a series of alternating bright and dark bands, an interference pattern like ripples merging on a pond's surface. Light, it seemed, was behaving not as particles, but as waves. Those waves passed through both slits simultaneously, overlapping and blending, creating zones of brightness where peaks met peaks and darkness where peaks met troughs. With this, Young had proven that light was a wave. And yet he had also unknowingly opened the first crack in the materialist worldview. A century later, when quantum physics emerged, scientists repeated Young's experiment. But this time, they fired single particles, photons, electrons, atoms, one by one. The result was nothing short of impossible. Even when sent individually, the same wave-like interference pattern appeared. It was as if each particle somehow went through both slits at once, as if it existed in two places, in two states, simultaneously. But the real mystery began when scientists tried to measure which slit the particle actually passed through. The moment they placed a detector at the slits, the interference pattern vanished. The particles now behaved like solid objects going through one slit or the other. Observation, the simple act of looking, had changed the outcome. What does that mean? That before we observe reality, it exists only as a cloud of infinite possibilities, a superposition. And when we look, when we measure, when we pay attention, one possibility becomes real while all others vanish. Werner Heisenberg called it the collapse of the wave function. In essence, observation gives birth to reality. The universe responds to awareness itself. Think about that for a moment. Matter behaves differently when it is being watched. Consciousness is not a passive witness. It is the trigger that turns potential into existence. The observer is not separate from the experiment. The observer creates the experiment. Hermes Trismegistus, the ancient sage, once wrote, "As above, so below." Long before quantum theory, he already hinted that the universe is a mirror of mind, that reality reflects the consciousness observing it. Imagine standing before a closed door. Behind it could be a dog, a cat, or nothing at all. All possibilities coexist until you open the door. The moment you look, the wave collapses, one reality solidifies. In the quantum realm, this is exactly what happens. Before observation, a particle exists in a field of infinite potential. But when we turn our attention toward it, one version becomes real. And if this is true at the smallest scale of the universe, then it must also be true for life itself. Whatever you focus your mind upon expands. Whatever you ignore fades. When you pour your energy into problems, you feed them. You amplify the frequency of struggle. But when you focus instead on solutions, possibilities, and creation, you shift the field around you. You collapse a different reality into being. A person drowning in debt who thinks only of lack creates more lack. But the moment that person shifts focus to abundance, to opportunity, to movement, the field reorganizes. The door opens. The universe responds. This is not mere poetry. It is physics with a pulse. The same law that governs the quantum world governs the inner world. Attention is creation. Consciousness is the ultimate sculptor of reality. Thomas Young's candle lit more than a room that night. It illuminated the truth that every mind, every soul, carries the same creative spark, the same divine power to shape the world it perceives. Thomas Young's humble experiment became the spark that ignited an entirely new branch of science, quantum mechanics. But what few realized then, and what even fewer accept now, is that this was more than physics. It was a revelation about reality itself. Because if the world only becomes real when observed, then the observer, consciousness, must be part of the equation. For centuries, science has separated mind from matter, spirit from substance. But the double-slit experiment whispered a forbidden truth, that the mind is not watching the universe unfold. It's helping it unfold. The observer and the observed are not two things, but two faces of the same consciousness peering into itself. At the quantum level, reality is not solid, not fixed, not predetermined. It is a sea of possibilities. Infinite potential, waiting for attention to give it shape. And that means you are not simply a being moving through the universe. The universe is moving through you. The implications are staggering. Every thought, every emotion, every intention becomes an act of measurement, a subtle force collapsing the infinite into one chosen version of reality. The Hermetic texts spoke of this long ago. The universe is mental. Reality, then, is not something that happens outside of you. It is a projection, born from the frequencies of your consciousness. To grasp this, imagine yourself holding an impossibly powerful microscope, one that can pierce deeper and deeper into the very fabric of existence. At first, you would see your skin, a landscape of molecules bound together. Dive deeper, and those molecules dissolve into atoms, tiny worlds orbiting a nucleus of protons and neutrons. Look even closer, and those protons and neutrons split into smaller entities, quarks, the most fundamental particles we know. But here's where the mystery deepens. When you zoom past the level of quarks, what remains? Empty space? No. There lies the quantum vacuum, an invisible ocean of raw, undivided energy seething with endless potential. It is not nothingness, it is everything before it becomes something. From this vast field, all matter arises. Every particle, every star, every cell in your body emerges from this infinite well of creation. Physicists call it the quantum field or the zero-point field. Ancient mystics called it the source, the all, the divine. Whatever name we give it, the essence is the same. It is the infinite presence from which all forms are born. From this quantum vacuum arises the Higgs field, the invisible web that gives mass to energy. When the raw energy of the vacuum interacts with this field, it becomes tangible. It becomes matter. From quarks to protons, from protons to atoms, from atoms to molecules, and from molecules to the living cells that form your body. Every layer of existence is a symphony emerging from that same silent source. And here is the secret few dare to consider: that this field is not separate from you. You are made of it. Everything that exists, from galaxies to grass blades, from thoughts to thunderstorms, is a manifestation of the same quantum sea. You are not living in the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as you. The ancients would have called this the divine spark, the essence of God that breathes life into all beings. In quantum terms, that spark is a fragment of the infinite field vibrating within you, identical in nature to the source from which it came. It is not a metaphor. It is physics meeting mysticism on the same page. When you understand this, not just intellectually, but through the quiet recognition of the heart, you begin to awaken. Enlightenment is nothing more than the remembrance that the energy creating stars is the same energy that beats your heart. And yet, to feel this truth requires surrender. The illusion of separation, the idea that you are a tiny, isolated being fighting against a vast external world, is the root of every form of suffering. We resist what we are, and in doing so, we create pain. Imagine a single cell within the liver refusing to believe it belongs to the body. It suffers because it cannot see the unity it is part of. Humanity in its blindness has done the same. We have forgotten that we are within the all, and the all is within us. Every war, every act of exploitation, every chain of oppression, every wound of greed, all arise from that illusion of separateness. The belief that I and you are different entities instead of ripples in the same ocean of consciousness. When one harms another, it is the wave striking itself. The experiment that began with a beam of light was never merely about physics. It was a revelation of divinity hidden in plain sight. The quantum vacuum, this endless ocean of energy, bears all the qualities humanity once attributed to God. It is omnipresent, for it exists everywhere and in everything. It is omnipotent, for it holds the infinite potential to become all things. And it is omniscient, for through it all experience is connected. Nothing is unknown to the field that births it. When mystics said God is in everything, they were not speaking in poetry. They were describing the quantum truth. The field does not simply surround creation, it is creation. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought is an expression of this same infinite consciousness, forever folding in and out of itself, dancing between being and becoming. The double-slit experiment, then, is not just a cornerstone of physics. It is the mirror through which the universe lets us glimpse itself. It whispers the same truth that sages, prophets, and visionaries have spoken for millennia. There is no separation. There is only the one, dreaming itself as many. To understand the quantum vacuum is to understand what humanity once called God. Not a distant deity watching from the heavens, but the living source pulsing through every atom, every breath, every heartbeat. It is not a being outside of you, but the being within you, the consciousness behind your consciousness. This infinite field of energy is not somewhere out there. It is within all things, as all things. Nothing exists outside of it. There is no place where it is not. It flows through galaxies and grass alike, through thoughts and thunder, through the silence between words and the space between your cells. When you realize that the same energy forming the stars is the essence that animates you, something begins to shift. The veil between you and the universe starts to dissolve. You begin to see that separation was only a dream, a trick of perception. Every human being carries within them a spark of that infinite source, the divine spark. It is the signature of the quantum vacuum within you, your fingerprint of infinity. Every being that exists, from the humblest insect to the grandest galaxy, carries that same essence, unique in form yet identical in origin. To recognize this spark is what the mystics have called enlightenment. But enlightenment is not found in books, temples, or ritual. It is felt. It is the quiet recognition that the same power that moves the cosmos moves within you. And feeling this truth, truly feeling it, is the key to transformation. Without feeling, understanding remains just another concept in the mind. But when you feel the spark, when you allow that awareness to sink from thought into the heart, the illusion of separateness begins to dissolve. You no longer see the world as something outside of you, but as something reflecting you. This is why love is not merely an emotion, it is the resonance of unity. To love the all is to feel the all as your own essence. When this love awakens, control fades. The need to dominate, to manipulate, to fight against life softens into trust. You begin to let the spark, that divine intelligence, guide everything. This is what ancient wisdom meant by surrendering the ego. Not giving up your will, but aligning it with something infinitely wiser. The ego is the part of you that believes it must do everything alone. It tries to control life, to force outcomes, to protect itself from what it cannot understand. But the ego can never truly be in control because it is only a fragment pretending to be the whole. When you release that need to control, not by passivity but by trust, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to flow. The same intelligence that guides the stars starts guiding you. The spark within takes the lead, weaving synchronicities, insights, and opportunities in ways the mind could never plan. This doesn't mean you do nothing. On the contrary, you do everything you can, but without resistance. You work, you learn, you act, but with the awareness that the true mover is not the mind, but the spark within. The body becomes the vessel, the mind becomes the instrument, and the spark, the source, becomes the musician. When this harmony is felt, life becomes effortless. Problems stop appearing as punishments and begin to reveal themselves as teachings. Mirrors reflecting where we have forgotten who we are. Suffering then is not required for awakening. It is only the echo of resistance. The moment you accept that all is the all and the all is all that is, the struggle dissolves. Imagine a single wave in the ocean insisting it is separate from the sea. Its anxiety, its struggle, its loneliness, all vanish the moment it remembers. It is water. The same water as every other wave, rising and falling within the rhythm of something far greater. That is us. We are waves of consciousness in the infinite ocean of the quantum field, expressions of the same divine essence. When humanity forgets this, war is born, exploitation is born, fear, greed, cruelty, all the shadows of separation arise from that single misunderstanding. Because when we no longer see ourselves in others, we can harm without remorse. But to harm another is to wound the self, for there is only one. The illusion of separation is the true original sin. The moment we awaken from it, peace naturally follows. When one person awakens, they become a lighthouse, a reminder to others that they too are divine in disguise. This understanding transforms everything, even the very definition of God. The divine is not an external ruler dictating from afar. The divine is the field itself, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, not through command but through essence. Omnipresent because it is in everything and everywhere. In the atoms of the air, in the warmth of the sun, in the silence between your thoughts. Omnipotent because it holds the infinite potential to become anything. All possibilities exist within it. Omniscient because it is the awareness flowing through all experiences. The seer behind every pair of eyes. When science describes the quantum vacuum and mystics describe God, they are pointing to the same infinite field, the same boundless intelligence dreaming reality into existence. The language may differ, but the truth is one. Everything that exists is a vibration of the same divine consciousness. And when you finally feel that truth, not just believe it, but live it, you begin to see God not as a concept, but as the very substance of being itself. You stop searching for meaning and start realizing that you are meaning, embodied. When science describes the quantum vacuum and mystics describe God, they are both speaking of the same thing. The infinite field of consciousness from which all forms arise and to which all forms return. Different languages, same truth. One uses the language of mathematics, the other the language of the soul. But both point toward the same horizon, the realization that everything is one, vibrating in endless expressions of itself. And this realization changes everything. Because once you understand that you are not separate from the source, fear loses its ground. You stop fighting the current of life and begin to flow with it. You no longer ask the universe for miracles. You recognize that you are the miracle moment by moment, breath by breath. When a human being awakens to this truth, they begin to live differently. They listen more than they speak. They see beauty even in chaos. They recognize that every challenge is not a punishment, but an invitation to remember. The field, the source, the all, it speaks through every experience, every encounter, every moment of silence. This is why the sages could look upon suffering and still smile. They understood that even pain is a movement of the divine, a wave folding in on itself to create growth, awareness, compassion. And when you begin to see from that place, the entire world transforms. The same life you once feared becomes the canvas through which the infinite paints your awakening. If the quantum vacuum is the sea of infinite possibilities, then consciousness is the wind that shapes its waves. What you focus upon becomes real. What you believe becomes the form through which reality expresses itself. The universe is not static. It listens, it responds, it mirrors. Every thought is a ripple sent into eternity. So ask yourself, what reality are you choosing right now? What vision are you observing into existence? Are you measuring the world through fear and scarcity, or through faith and possibility? Because the universe is not judging your choices. It is simply reflecting them. The quantum field does not decide what to manifest. It manifests what you are ready to see. This is the sacred dance between creation and consciousness, between the unmanifest and the manifest. The observer and the observed are one and the same, forever gazing into each other's eyes, discovering themselves anew. When Thomas Young lit that candle in 1801, he was not just testing a theory about light. He was unknowingly revealing that light itself, the essence of all things, is aware. Every photon, every particle, every heartbeat is an expression of the same luminous intelligence. His experiment did not just change science. It awakened humanity to a truth older than time. But humanity, as it always has, resisted. Paradigm shifts are never accepted easily. We prefer the comfort of the known to the vastness of the possible. We cling to the illusion of solidity because it feels safe, even as reality whispers that nothing is solid, that all form is flow. And yet the truth waits patiently. It does not demand belief. It simply is. It reveals itself in the stillness between thoughts, in the breath before sleep, in the awareness watching the stars. The truth that you are the universe dreaming itself awake. One day, this understanding will no longer be confined to philosophy or quantum theory. Children will grow up learning that reality is not fixed, that they are not victims of fate but creators of experience. They will learn that the same intelligence forming galaxies is the one guiding their intuition, shaping their dreams, answering their prayers. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, once said, "Science advances one funeral at a time, because truth does not arrive through argument. It unfolds through evolution. It waits for the old to fade so that the new can be born. And what is being born now is not a new science nor a new religion, but a new awareness, one that unites both. We stand at the edge of an awakening. The borders between physics and spirituality, between matter and mind, are dissolving. The closer we look at the fabric of the universe, the more it looks back at us. The deeper we dive into matter, the more we find consciousness waiting there, quiet, infinite, aware. Perhaps this was the secret all along, that what we call God is not watching from above but breathing from within, that the divine does not command reality. It is reality. That you, I, and everything we see are not separate sparks of light, but one single flame reflected in countless forms. And so, when you open your eyes tomorrow and light floods the room, remember, you are not merely seeing light, you are being light. Every glance, every breath, every heartbeat is the universe observing itself, loving itself, becoming itself again and again. This is the revelation hidden within the Double-Slit Experiment, a truth too vast for the mind, yet undeniable to the soul. You are the observer, the creator, the creation, the infinite field discovering itself through the miracle of your awareness. And once you truly know this, even for a moment, the question, "What is God?" dissolves, because the answer is already looking through your eyes.